I think it's bold of him to make this jump, knowing that, his contemporary was relieved of her duty, and making the leap. It's I don't know. I think I'd have a little bit of trepidation signing for the Wave given the state of unrest.
Earlier this week, big coaching news was announced out of San Diego Wave. They have named their new head coach, Jonas Eidevall. He was formerly with Arsenal. He left after just 7 matches, saying that was his own personal decision to do so. And now he's coming to the West Coast to coach in the NWSL. Sandra Herrera and I had the distinct honor of speaking with him about this. Now, Christine, you are a resident Gunners fan here. You are always chatting Arsenal, so I'm really excited to get your take on this. But there is a full interview with Jonas Eidevall. It's up on our YouTube page. Go watch it. The link is in our chat. It's a great talk. Full disclosure, he was in Sweden during this interview. It was about midnight, maybe like 12:30 in the morning. So God bless him for doing that and staying up with us. But let's take a listen to it. What took him to San Diego? Take a listen. How'd you land here? What drove you to this head coaching role with the Wave?
I think in general, looking at the league and WSL, I really like the competitiveness of the league, how small the margins is, even between like the sort of the top of the league and the bottom of the league. And I think that's quite unique in women's soccer, if I would compare that to the European leagues. And that really motivates me, where all details, all margins matter to get the results. And I think the more specific side about San Diego, with new ownership, new management coming in, having such an ambitious vision of what they want to create with the club, I felt very aligned to that vision, and that also motivated me a lot. So I think all those factors played a big part in my decision to choose San Diego.
Christine, what do you think?
You know, I had said ahead of this appointment, as everything was rumored who could possibly take over the San Diego Wave, that I didn't know that Jonas would be a great fit, just because of, one, how athletic NWSL is, and it's largely transitional play, not necessarily his known style and preferred style of play. So this should be interesting, but it's not Landon Donovan, and it's not another random wild card pick. It's not an interim. So I think it's interesting. I think it's bold of him to make this jump, knowing that, his contemporary was relieved of her duty, and making the leap. It's I don't know. I think I'd have a little bit of trepidation signing for the Wave given the state of unrest, but I'm rooting for Jonas. Obviously, I think he's great. He did Arsenal well until he kind of lost buy-in from the players, but this should be a very interesting NWSL season. I can't wait to see what he manages to put together for this squad.
It's interesting because San Diego, in their inaugural season as an expansion team, they also hired a coach that was formerly in the Women's Super League in England. Casey Stoney, she coached at Manchester United, and we get that again. Now it's different ownership at San Diego. It's a different GM, different front office people in charge, but it's interesting that they're still kind of going that route. You touched on a lot right there in that response to Jonas Eidevall's answer. There's a lot of unrest happening at San Diego right now. He did touch on it, but also the club. What's going to happen? We asked him a lot of questions, so go watch the full thing on YouTube. But
I so will. I'm going to watch with everybody else in the chat.
Exactly, but we're going to give you more because we also asked him about the club, specifically what the heck he's going to do once he gets in charge. When you think about the year and the season ahead with the Wave, what's top of the to-do list to get this team prepared for the season ahead? What is it for you personally that you're like, these are the top few things that I want to do when I get to the club?
I think to start off with, and it's a period that we're in here now, is to build connections. And it's for me to connect with the players. It's for the players to connect with themselves and with other staff. And I think if we build strong connections in this period here now, that can allow us to keep really high standards, and that we can challenge both ourselves and each other on the pitch when we start working together, which I think is crucial in order to go into the next stage, and that means to be competing in training, but also competing against your opponent in every single second that you play on the game. So that's sort of from a environmental perspective where we're at, that we need to go here now to connect in order to challenge and then to compete. Playing style wise, I think it's really important with a team that went through quite a lot of change last season, to find consistency, to find what we need to be really good at, what are going to be our super strengths that we can put in place in any time against any opponent, and making sure that we get repetition and grow mastery in those areas of the game. And that's going to be really important for me and the coaching staff, together with the players, to identify those, and then we need to start working with them early on in preseason.
Sounds like he's got a plan.
I mean, if the plan is let me not do what my predecessors did, because I think that we unanimously agree, and I don't remember who put it quite so eloquently, if it was you or Darian at one point, that said, one of the chief problems at San Diego Wave is that coaches, both Casey Stoney and Landon Donovan at one point, were just asking too many questions and just giving far too much of an ask to the attack than they were capable of doing or communicating among each other. So you were just creating this semi-controlled chaos. There wasn't, I mean, huge distinction between a Casey Stoney wave and a Landon Donovan wave. Landon Donovan wave was like high risk, high reward, throw everybody up. Who knows? Let's see what happens. I don't recommend that to anyone. So I think that the bar is fairly low if Jonas is measuring himself against that in terms of defining and creating a cohesive team that's able to have some, verticality and able to pass amongst themselves. I think there are bits of brilliance. They have good players, right? I just think it's give them a task and tell them what you need. Don't give them 43 jobs and then say, just get it done. And then also maybe just hoof it from the back and see what happens. Like, they're too good. You have Naomi Gurma in that back line. There's no team that should look as disjointed and unrest and confused, is what I'll say.
He's got a lot to do. He's also learned a lot from his experiences coaching in Sweden, coaching in the Champions League with Arsenal and the Women's Super League. And we asked him about that. Also, how that is going to be different this year in the NWSL and with San Diego.
What type of culture can players expect and under your leadership?
I want to do things together. I'm a big believer of the saying to say, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And if it doesn't become our ideas, we're not going to live and breathe them every day. If it's only my ideas or a few of us that believe in that, us as a group will never go far together. So I don't view this journey as something that where only I decide or where only I lead. Leadership for me is to include the whole group and to make sure that we are committed, we're present, and we're doing the journey together. So the environment a player can expect, it's going to be one where you are expected to be active, you're expected to participate, but you can also be expected that your voice will be listened to, and your opinion will be always considered and valued, and it's going to be together that we're going to do things and not one by one.
Maybe the first thing he'll do is put a quote up in the locker room, a quote board.
Just a belief sign from Ted Lasso and call it a day. You know what? I appreciate I appreciate these interviews and these pressers when coaches are appointed, because obviously everything is very flowery and still very vague. It's like, oh, I'm gonna come in and we're gonna sing
Mhm.
Kumbaya and
Right,
hold
right.
hands and hope
He's
for
not
the
even
best.
there
Like,
yet. He's not even
he's
there
like,
yet.
hasn't even boarded his flight. Let's hope they don't cancel his ticket. Okay, there's always a chance. But I digress. I think that it's going to be a big ask. Obviously, the criticisms of Casey Stoney were like, "Oh, she's largely defensive as a manager, and she managed to accomplish a lot at this club."
Right.
I leave the door open for some optimism for Jonas. There needs to be direction, and there needs to be trust, and there needs to be buy-in from this squad.
I'll give you the optimism, Christine. He left a club that the players had turned on him. The locker room wasn't bought into him, and he left feeling that hostility. He doesn't want to get back there. So he's going to do what he can to make sure the players are happy. And what makes players happy is winning. They don't really care about a lot else when things are going well. I'm going to leave it at that. That's your optimism for the day. You may call me Lisa Glass Half Full Carlin today. I'm usually pretty positive, but I'm trying
You
a lot
are.
here,
I'm like,
guys.
wow, that's different
A
from
lot.
any other day. How? I'm usually like the let's keep it real.
I'm
Okay.
I'm
No,
I'm trying a
I'll
lot
take
here.
your glass of half full water. I'll
Yeah,
take it.
we'll take it. We'll see what happens with San Diego.